In this lecture, let's fix the issues with the current navigation mesh. Currently, I'm looking at the slope. These areas around the slope are walkable. However, the AI has decided the slope is not walkable. We can make this area walkable by adjusting the agent settings. In the navigation window, switch to the Bake tab. Under this tab, before baking the mesh, we can configure the size of our agents. This helps AI understand the size of our characters. Specifically, the settings for this section should resemble the player's size. We are given a diagram to help us visualize how our settings affect the AI's understanding of our character. Let's go through these settings. The first setting is the agent's radius. By default, Unity visualizes our player as a cylinder. The radius of the cylinder is based on this setting. In an earlier lecture, the size of our capsule was resized to 0.3. If we were to attempt to calculate the radius of our capsule, it would be 0.15. It's half the size of the capsule's scale. Currently, the radius is too big for the slope. Let's set this option to 0.15. Next, let's try baking the mesh again. After a few moments, the mesh should allow the player to walk on the slope, but it's not perfect. The slope is too steep. Let's keep configuring the settings. The next setting is called Agent Height. As the name suggests, we can change the height of our players. This setting will not affect the slope. However, it will affect the cave entrance. Let's zoom in on the cave. Looking closely at the navigation mesh, it's not going to allow agents to enter the cave. The reason has to do with their height. The height of our cave is 1 unit, whereas the height of the agent is 2 units. Our capsule has a height of 0.3. Let's change the agent height setting to 0.3. Next, rebake the map. This time, the navigation mesh has been baked into the cave. Perfect. Let's head back to the slope. The next setting is called Max Slope. This setting refers to the slope of any object that's not the agent. If a tile is walkable but has a slope, this setting will affect that area of the map. Let's change the angle to 50 degrees. I arrived at this setting through trial and error. You can try experimenting with this value to find a more accurate value. Before baking the scene, let's discuss the last setting called Step Height. If our game has stairs, players should be able to walk on them. Unlike slopes, stairs have angles of 90 degrees. Therefore, the slope setting will not be applicable to stairs. We can allow players to walk on stairs by setting this option. It's how a player can walk on stairs. Unity may throw an error at us. The step height may not be higher than the height of the agent. Let's change this setting to 0.3 to match the height. Lastly, let's bake the scene. Voila! The navigation mesh has been applied to the slope. We're finished configuring the settings. Feel free to adjust the settings. Your values should match mine. If the navigation mesh isn't working, you may need to adjust the values suitable for your game. There are 2 extra sections in the Bake tab. The first section is called Generated Off-Mesh Links. These settings configure the mesh to allow players to jump over large distances. Our game won't allow players to jump. We do not need to configure these settings. The last section contains advanced settings. Once again, configuring these settings is not going to be covered in this course. In most cases, you shouldn't have to configure them. In the next lecture, let's make some final adjustments to the terrain.